What is Dental Year? Dental Year is the leading marketing app in dentistry. Created by marketers, this resourceful platform helps your dental practice in a variety of ways. Content inspiration, real-time marketing ideas, tips on ROI with your current methods, fresh resources, and lots more.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Buzz. I'm your host, Brad, and really excited that you could join us today as we have a special guest. We have Rex Plamann, who's a partner at DDS Match. Hey, Rex, how are you?
Hey, Brad. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
It's great to connect with you. For anyone that doesn't know about DDS Match, just kind of let our audience members know kind of what do you guys do?
Yeah, we're a group of professionals spanning over 40 states now, Brad, that represent practice owners and provide services for practice owners that are looking to sell their practice, recruit associates, formulate partnerships and mergers. We're into succession planning too, so we've got great tools for the long-term play for doctors transition out of ownership, and then we also provide practice appraisals as well. And that's what we're doing at DDS Match, and we're doing so with some really unique tools, exclusive partnerships, and we've really taken the process of handling these services that our doctors need with transitions to the next level and providing really, representation that we believe is needed in that area of the business.
Sure. And because this is a marketing show, obviously, I want to first ask you, when you're doing deal flow and you're looking either acquiring or selling a practice, what impact will the overall marketing of a practice have on it, right? If there's one practice that has no digital footprint, an old website, no reviews, no videos, as opposed to a practice with a beautiful new website, logos, design, social proof, domain authority, obviously that's going to translate to healthier patient flow and more revenue. So it's all correlated. But what are some of the keys in importance to having a healthy marketing for a practice overall?
Yeah, the thing that strikes me, Brad, is as much as we enjoy really working with practice owners on a plan to be out in 2 to 5 years, most of the time we're dealing with practice owners that are calling and saying, you know what, I give up. I just want to sell my practice. Mm-hmm. Help me sell my practice. And then we start to dig into that practice to prepare it for the marketplace. We have candid conversations about what's going on inside the business, looking at their operative work, looking at their financials. And oftentimes we get to the point where we're looking at the marketing dollars in their P&L. And it's not a fat zero, but it's too many times too close to zero. And usually as we're now interviewing buyers that are coming into these practices where we've kind of turned off the marketing, it's often, well, here's how we get new patients. After the buyer asks, what's going on with marketing in the practice, and the owners that we represent will usually say, well, it's all, sort of by referral. We're based upon referrals from our patient base to help grow our business. And unfortunately, that might be the case, but usually that new patient flow is sort of at a trickle at that point.
Right.
And they used to do a lot of marketing. They'll talk about, oh yeah, I used to be in all the church newsletters, and I was in the local newspaper, and I was sponsoring the softball team, and I had this and that going with the folks moving into the neighborhood packets. But unfortunately, they've kind of shut it down, and ultimately, that just isn't very attractive to buyers. And they're wondering, well, did you shut it off because nothing was working and there aren't new patients to be had in the neighborhood? And it just doesn't bode well for the showcasing of the value of that business and maximizing the value of that business to buyers. So we love to see that the marketing is continuing all the way through when they list that practice for sale. And really what they need to do today is to show these younger buyers that are really more savvy with social media and other different avenues of marketing that didn't exist 20 plus years ago, to get that a little bit of play out there in the social media environment, to turn on a decent website that's interactive, that has some videos. So you look like, some of those other folks in town that have a dental practice that has the full complement of digital tools, has turned on the full complement of digital media and marketing tools within their practices. So that's what I'd love to see, where they just haven't shut that marketing valve off,
Yeah, it almost feels like it's an advantage for the buyer because it's in a way a distressed asset, right? If that practice is kind of plodding along, but just relying on, and it depends on where they're located, right? But if they're just solely relying on word of mouth referrals and they haven't tapped into search, paid search, all these other avenues, the buyer who knows right could go, wow, like that's an undervalued asset. So I'm just thinking of one client we work with in particular. Great young guy, Mike, bought a practice, and it was kind of like very old school, right? Like great, awesome location, but they weren't really leveraging the internet at all. Like they actually didn't even have a website, right? And now obviously revenues have skyrocketed. So it's better off maybe sometimes if the buyer kind of goes in there with that new game plan. But how do you know those practices? Maybe let's say someone comes to you and says, Rex, I actually want to acquire a practice in this location. How do you find that deal where someone's trying to sell where, hey, they got the technology, it's a great location, they have a decent amount of patients in the systems already, healthy spreadsheets, all that type of stuff, healthy numbers, but they just haven't figured out the marketing piece. Like, how do you go about finding that opportunity for an acquisition? Because once they turn on the marketing within 30 days, they could break the record for new patients every month if they know what they're doing.
Right, for sure. Yeah, and we only represent sellers, so we've got a moving Rolodex of buyers coming in and out of the system with us as we have practices to showcase. And what I am looking for is the practice owner that not only are they, they've spent their time, they've been in for 40 plus years, they're at that 70-year mark in age, and they're saying, it's time to back away. But we're dealing more and more with folks today, Brad, that have owned a practice for 20 years. They've done really well. They turned on the hygiene program and maximized that, and they've been running 2.5 hygienists a week. And they've got great revenues. They've got great digital. Those folks are out there more than ever before. And they're just saying, you know what, I don't know if I want to own anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the person, if I was a buyer, that I'd keep a keen eye out for. But unfortunately, there probably isn't enough of those to go around to satisfy the buyers that are looking for practices like that.
Right. What advice would you have for someone listening now who's not nearly ready, but let's say they're planning, maybe 10 years out, 15. What kind of things would you have them start putting in place now when they are ready? Because, if you look outside of dentistry, right, there's entrepreneurs or startups who literally launch ventures to flip them. And everyone says you shouldn't do that because you're not going to have your heart and soul to do it and it won't be successful. But people do, right?
Right.
I heard about a new coffee. I'm drinking it right now. I won't actually mention it, but a lot of people build these products and they just try to sell it at like 5 or 6 times the multiple or whatever it is in that industry. Dentistry is different, right? So people love practicing dentistry. They want to do it. What would you say for someone though that's actually looking to do they want to make sure they have like the updated technology? Should they have a team in place? Signage, websites, anything that's kind of like consistent for deal flow that the seller would get maximum dollar for if they had these things in place?
Yeah. So we just put a tool in place before COVID hit that I'm really excited about. It's called the Practice Optimizer Experience.
Nice.
And it's really a succession planning tool for doctors that are 2 to 7 years out from selling their practice. And it looks at all the key components to really, be realistic today about what the valuation of the business is to start with on that tool. And then we say, it's really important to make sure you've got your estate in place and you've protected your personal and your professional assets. So we have estate planning involved in that. And we go through all kinds of pieces, including, retirement planning and talking to a financial advisor. And then it gets into marketing. And we've linked some partners into that tool. One of them's like one of those folks that helps with the negotiation of the PPO reimbursements in the practice. So you can look to get a better reimbursement before you hang it up and maximize the value of the business just through that little method. Mm-hmm. But there's many different ways of doing it. And what I would suggest is that to keep the marketing dial, turned up pretty high. It's not like maybe when you're just getting going, but you got to keep it turned up pretty high to make sure that patient flow is coming, because ultimately at the end of the day, buyers are buying the goodwill in the practice that is based upon the patient base.
Yeah.
And so you got to keep that patient base going at a really, really nice pace and holding strong. So you want to retain the patients, obviously, keep your place up to date, but continue to bring in a new patient flow that will be attractive to the buyers out there eventually to say, hey, this is a great community and people are looking for good dentistry here. And you can still continue to find new patients in this neighborhood. And so that's a really big piece. Obviously, the digital tools that are available today can be very intimidating to older dentists or more tenured dentists, but they are critical to attracting good buyers in the future when you're ready to hang it up and say it's time to hand over the keys. So we love seeing folks that have a digital pan, and if CBCT works with the operative business in your practice, I would seriously consider looking at those units today. They're about half the price of what I used to sell them when I was in distribution. And obviously to have the paperless office as close to paperless as possible. It's not realistic to say we're completely paperless, I understand, but it's nice to see that digital workflow because that's very impressive to folks.
Mm-hmm.
And let's make sure there's no duct tape anywhere in the practice.
Right.
And keep those operatories under 15 years of age when you're ready to sell.
That's interesting. And what about the name of a practice? Sometimes they'll use the name of the doctor, and if the doctor kind of exits, it no longer is going to be on board when the sale occurs. Do you advise against naming a practice by the name? Should they go more like a term or the city, or does that not really matter?
If they have a little time on their side, it's probably not a bad idea to, above your own name, to implement your own branding, for that dental practice. People do appreciate seeing that. It certainly makes for a better transition when you don't have to have 3 or 4 names on the door.
Yeah,
and
right.
People are confused as to who they're coming to see when they made that appointment 3 months ago. But yeah, that's a critical piece, but something everybody's willing to work around.
But what about so you keep it confidential, but let's say the sale happens, someone buys a practice. What are the best systems how do you let your existing patients know there's a new owner, a new dentist? Is it a letter? Is it an email? Is it a phone call? Like, how do you do that at scale? If someone's got 2,000, 3,000 patients, kind of what's the best etiquette for letting people know, and what should that kind of notice look like?
Yeah, good thought. Generally speaking, it is really critical to keep things confidential as we're listing a practice to the marketplace. We want to keep it confidential all the way up to the closing date if possible. We do that to really preserve any, uncomfortableness or nervousness that erupts from either patients or staff because they know or hear about a change coming. So confidentiality is key, Brad, but one of the things that's pretty much a staple, at least with our transactions, is we will provide a template for both the buyer and the seller to get together on a letter to welcome the change and to welcome them back into the practice under the new ownership and help to really enhance that transition with the patient base. That's usually a cost that's shared, that's negotiated in the contract, the final purchase agreement.
And that makes sense. And I'm sure you provide a list of steps that the acquiring person has to get. Like, I can't say how many times it happens actually quite often where like someone sells a practice and we'll continue working with that location, but maybe it's the new owner and he or she doesn't have access to the domain name, which means the keys to the car, right? Like it'd be like not having keys to walk into the practice, right? So where's the domain name even hosted? Or, and then how do we reach out to GoDaddy or Network Solutions and reclaim that? It happened a few times recently, actually, where there was some like verifications and photocopies of driver's license needed, crazy stuff, and nothing ill-intended. It was just unaware of, oh, wait, like who's got access to our YouTube channel? Like if you don't have the login details for a YouTube channel, and sometimes a YouTube channel might have 50,000 views in a 10-year history, that's part of the IP, the intellectual property someone's acquiring, and clearly that person wants it. So just some recommendations for anyone listening. Once again, it's a marketing show. When you're selling or buying, make sure there's records. Even like if you're not using Instagram, make sure you have your Instagram username login details. So whoever takes over, there's no delay. Access to the email newsletters list, right? Are you using a Solution Reach? Are you using MailChimp? And whatever it is, who has access to that? And also, Rex, you know what the most, from my perspective, the most valuable asset anyone that they're acquiring, you know what I think it is? I think it's the data, the insights, right? Because if there's been Google Analytics or AdWords or new patient numbers, can you imagine, Rex, having new patient analytics for 10 years or 20 years for a practice and having that new patient spreadsheet of, like, even if the marketing wasn't a slam dunker, to let people know what's actually worked? What happens if 40% of new patient flows for the last 10 years at one practice were a digital billboard or like a yellow page ad? It could be, right? That right. The acquiring person had no idea about. And we have found every practice is different, obviously, based on bandwidth, based on personality, based on focus, based on desired patients. So every practice is different. And it's always very surprising, right? So make sure to be keeping track of your new patients very detailed, because that data and analytics is so important to acquire. And other things, Rex, I don't know, like before and after pictures. If you're acquiring a practice, they should have the ability to use that social proof and before and after pictures part of the acquisition, and that's marking gold moving forward for these practices for years to come.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you were talking a little bit about before, all those different subscriptions that need to be identified. All the digital ownership of subscriptions to different social media outlets, of course, your website, and all those things, need to be kind of checked off on the box as our buyers and sellers are getting together and fostering this transition. And that there's a lot of heavy work that goes into identifying where everything's at, yep, and organizing that and transitioning that over appropriately at the right time for the
exactly.
buyer.
And just little things, like a couple days ago in SSL, like a secure sockets layer, it's the SSL certificate at the top of a website. So you go to a website, it's got the lock, it's secure. You need that, like a safe, secure website. You'll get hammered on ranking if you don't have it. Anyway, a website recently, the SSL expired. Luckily, we caught it within a half a day, but the previous website hosting company had it expired at that date, and we just had to redirect the A record. So long story short, just minor little things. Make sure during that transition process, it's going to be there's going to be some unexpected things. So it's always nice to, there might be an email address at that practice that's being sold that was used as the catch-all for like Twitter and all the social media or login details. Make sure that is acquired when you have access to all that, right? You might have a verification phone number on the YouTube login details that you might have to text someone to get that 6-digit code at some point. I know it sounds ridiculous, but these are the things I just want to share with our audience, because buying or selling a practice, in terms of the marketing landscape, mostly the digital platforms, there's a lot of verification codes and login details. Just make sure that IP is secured, because that is really, really important. Whether you're using it today or not, at some point you might want to use it, and you got to have access to that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, most definitely. There's enough other things that we've got to deal with too, so you got to keep all that organized and minimize any noise associated with getting it all transitioned.
Yeah. Are there any kind of success stories in terms of marketing you've seen over the years that maybe like a recurring theme that maybe at some of the practices you've worked with, like again, I'm seeing they've done this, or they really had a strong referral program, or the front desk person just was so good at converting? Like, was there anything you've seen over the years that, like, if you had your own practice today, you'd make sure you implement it?
Yeah. I wouldn't be as afraid to invest the dollars as I've seen with other folks. And, if we think back to the 80s, certainly, the 90s, that yellow page ad that dentists were taking out, either it was that one-liner or two-liner that just showed the name and phone number, or, there was guys in there that had the half page, the full page, color maybe, spending $7,000, $8,000 a month. today there's so many different marketing tools that practices are utilizing that don't tabulate up to nearly what that amount is on a monthly basis. And so from what I've seen, really, Brad, it's like the combination of the folks that have all the latest and greatest digital tools that are seriously going to raise the value of their business and showcase well to patients, provide, state-of-the-art care. That broadcasts a great message, and you team that with a really strong website and somebody that's utilizing some recall tools that are working and hitching on to your operating software to notify patients of openings that are available in a couple hours. I mean, those practices are just, heads and tails above those that are just kind of turning their shoulder to it and turning their backs to it. And I would see that repeatedly with the folks I worked with when I was working with one of the major distributors, and we were showcasing all those great digital tools, and the folks that were successful putting it all together, they definitely were in the top 10% of their colleagues.
Are there any of those recur tools you want to share? Like in terms, was it a text, an email, or like what was it?
Yeah, it was those that would, as the patients were coming in, they would select what's the best way to communicate with me, and the patient would check that box for, text me,
Gotcha.
email me, or a combination of both, and that would go right into their profile. So when they had an opening available, those folks would already have communicated, I like Thursday appointments, I like afternoons.
Gotcha.
And it would work appropriately to bring them in there and fill those gaps.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
one of our sponsors of the show is Podium, and if anyone's using web chat, one of their features, it's just a great tool. Like the statistics around like 99% of all SMS text messages are open within the first 5 minutes. So we're living in a texting world right now. So text is huge. Even email newsletters, we recommend for offices a monthly cadence or quarterly at least to have that regular touch on email newsletter, especially if that headline is strong. And I know you're a believer in video as well. You guys have some really powerful videos on ddsmatch.com. Do you see a lot of the successful practices leveraging the power of video as well?
I do. I see that greatly, Brad. And something I was just thinking about with all the different avenues available out there. How do you feel about the good old snail mail, the USPS?
So I'm a huge fan of an omni-channel approach.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So whether that's postcards, whether that's digital, I was on the phone earlier today with Comcast Effect TV for a client looking at stations and TV. And, it just depends on the office, the location, the budget, all these things. There's one client who still uses the yellow pages, and well, that's a whole different story. But and I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. Let's not even go there because I don't want to go off the tangent of.
Sure.
Put it this way: I am all for innovative and creative, out of the box ways to market. You have to, right? Because it used to be 7 touches, now it's 14 touches. We need to have someone convert. So patients not only need to spend; it's not only spending; it's spending strategically, right? Let's just take Google AdWords for example, right? Which is a no-brainer. I do not know of a practice in North America that should not be running Google AdWords. It's non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone needs to, if they're being done right. Now, let's say the Google AdWords is being done right. Copy, the keywords, the focus, everything. But if the locations are off, it's done, right? Whether you're in a city or a rural area, if you're off by a mile or a different radius, your budget will get diluted. You'll have no ROI or very minimal ROI, right? So there's so many different factors in play. Back to the question of postcards, I have 3 of them sitting here right on my desk. I'm going to pick them up. I don't check the mail much here, but I got 3 recently, 3 great postcards from 3 different practices here in LA. They're all, let's see. Yeah, 2 are the same size, 1 smaller, and they're all really strong actually, right? Like the one has a great team image, so they want really personal customization. The other big one has a wonderful stock image. They're all showing their 5-star reviews. Some have cleaning specials, exams, x-rays.
Nice.
There's another office here with a little more modern vibe, better design. But for me, when I look at these, if I'm a patient and I get 3 in the mail and I see like where, how do you even choose, right? Like, and I'm taking my marketing aspect out of this for a second. I'm looking at all three of these, Rex. If I had no idea about clinical excellence and who to go to, you know, it's funny. It's probably the closest one. So we're seeing, especially now, we're seeing a huge trend. It's been like this for a while, but near me searches are growing at 800% a year. But just more so recently, when we're looking at AdWords for most offices now, the top 5 and then the top 10 overall performing keywords, it's usually now like best dentist near me, dentist in the area, cosmetic dentist near me. Like, it's all location-based searches. So I'm all for going to like Coyce Institute and getting accredited. You got to do it, of course. And you need all that, right? But basically, a lot of people are choosing the office based on location. It's almost like best restaurant near me or best hotel near me, which is crazy because if someone wanted to travel a little bit further, they could have an incredible experience maybe somewhere else. So that goes into a whole different discussion about social proof, branding, video, conversion rate optimization. But a lot of people are just solely basing the decision on location, right? And if that's the play, whether it's a postcard or a Google AdWord, that's got to be the focus. So if one of these was like really like there was a pin, right, and it was like we're located in, you know, Century City right here, and it was really targeted in terms of the radius, they probably have conversion over the other ones because the other ones all have the same services listed, right? They got the 5-star highlighted review. No one knows who's a better dentist, whatever that means, right, in terms of clinical excellence. Basically, they got to commit on what are we going to just double down on for the postcard? Is it going to be the social proof? Is it going to be scan this QR code, drive them to the website? Is it going to be same day crowns? I would say maybe if it is location, really bet the location. So have the map on there, have the location, and tell people exactly where they're at. I think there's too much messaging on these postcards, right? They're trying to have literally, I'm confused. Rex, if you saw this postcard right now, there is so much copy on this thing. I'm like dizzy. I'm dizzy, right? They got insurance, they got exam, they got pricing, they got, just show me one message. And I got to tell you, I actually like, if you don't know what the message should be, just put a smile quote on there, right? Most smiles are started by another smile. That could be on your postcard or digital billboard. That, for me, putting out good vibes, probably is the best marketing of all time anyway, because you're not trying to sell people. You're just putting out good vibes. And they'll hold on to that postcard. They'll put it on the refrigerator. And hopefully at some point, if they need a new dentist, they will convert. I think that would be a strategy. I'd rather go that route than having 80 different messages with zero focus on a call to action. Because right now, someone has no idea what to even do with these postcards.
Yeah. I would keep the message simple if I was going to send out that postcard. And I find it to be a little valuable. I don't know about in your household, but in mine, my wife still loves going to the mailbox. We're in the suburbs of Chicago here on the west side.
Nice.
And she looks forward to when the mailman's coming by. We know him by name, and she's out there greeting him at the mailbox. And there's less items in the mail today. So you could potentially stick out, but I would probably tell people with a brief message, if you're looking for a new dentist, go to our website. And now I'll take that postcard and I'll bring it over to my laptop or bring it over to my iPad or whatever it is. And I'll start Googling to see what I see there. And, you know, you and I were talking before we started recording, you know, managing the reviews is really important. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that firsthand with acquisitions where that can be, you know, a piece of the communication and due diligence and ultimately negotiation potentially if buyers don't like what they see with the reviews online. So doctors need to take care of that review system out there, whether it be on Yelp or Google, and take the appropriate communication measures to make sure you look good there and you're explaining some things when it doesn't look good and taking care of the business out there.
I agree. And once again, a nod out to our sponsor Podium, they have the game changer review platform for anyone listening. I also want to mention, Rex, before we get off the postcards, all of these initiatives, like they all just like don't you find like the offices that track new patient interest? How'd you find out about us? Who's looking at that spreadsheet? Where are the new patients coming from? What's working? Because this shouldn't be a guessing game, right? We talk about Netflix a lot on this show. It's almost like cheating. Like when they produce a show, they know for sure if it's going to be successful because based on people pausing or fast forwarding through actors, based on stories, based on searches on their platform. They know what people want. This is why it's like binge watching is like, it's not manipulated, it's manicured, right? They know how to produce content based on behaviors. Like back in the day, studios and networks would have to guess and be like, let's put this script together with these actors, put enough budget behind it so Friday, Saturday night, opening weekend, hopefully it's successful. Now, you base it on the data and analytics. And clearly there's creative genius behind these shows and writing and brilliance, but the data will help you get there. Same back to even dental practice marketing. If you could look and be like, all right, we sent out X amount of postcards and we had this amount of many patients, what was the ROI? Clearly, there should be no hesitation either doing it moving forward or not doing it moving forward. Back to my call earlier, I was on a call earlier with TV. I'm actually thinking of redirecting some of that budget to another I want to put some budget like on LinkedIn advertising and YouTube advertising for a particular client. So it's all a matter of actually, I'm not going to guess. I want to know exactly how many people clicked on the website after this commercial aired, how many people called, right? And if I don't have quantifiable data, something's working, I'm pivoting and trying something else, right? The days of just solely relying on hunches, you don't have to. It should be a hybrid approach. What does your gut tell you? And what's the data tell us? Because Rex, I think when the offices that do that, buyers and sellers will be much happier with valuations moving forward.
Oh, you bet. You bet. And the value will shine through. Value will shine through.
I got a really important question for you.
Let's hear it.
Best deep dish pizza in Chicago, in your opinion?
Oh, my gosh. I'm kind of a Gino's East guy.
No. Well, okay, right. All right. Forgive the audience, you guys. Rex is not originally from Chicago, so we're going to let this one slide.
Now, a very close second to me is Lou Malnati's, though my son just wouldn't go with me on it.
Okay.
But I'm a Lou Malnati's guy as well.
I love it. Rex, I was joking. No, I know. But it's so funny. It's always that thing of like, well, how long have you been in Chicago? You've been in Chicago for a number of years, so you basically are a Chicagoan at this point.
Yeah. For all practical purposes, my whole family started here with me and my wife moving here 15 years ago. Yeah.
Listen, Gino's East is so good. I'm like salivating just thinking about it. But it's
which one's yours?
I'm a Lou Mal guy. I love Lou Mal.
Okay. Yeah.
So next time I'm in Chicago, hopefully soon, we could grab a couple slices or something, at a Lou Mal or Gino's, whatever. But you guys think about branding and marketing and just goodwill in the like. Think of those brands right there, like Gino. Last thing I want to leave the audience with on this episode, because it's been awesome having you on, Rex, is find inspiration outside of dentistry whenever you can, right? And I always recommend finding it with brands that you actually consume and support and buy, right? Like why do we eat here? Why look at our credit card statements? Why do we spend here? Where do we keep going back to? And there's a method to it. There's a genius to it, right? It's not by accident these restaurants, these hotels, these enterprise level software companies scale so quickly and get so successful. It's strategy. It's innovation. And we can learn literally. Like, I'm curious. I'm going to go. We don't have to show the audience. I'm going to go to Lou Malnati's right now and Gino's East website, and I'm going to give a couple tidbits, two bites of wisdom right now from pizza places. Gino's East pizza that we could take for dental marketing. So you go to Lou Malnati's, okay? Unbelievable. They have their header image right now. If you go to LouMalnati's.com, for anyone listening right now, you don't have to be in Chicago. You could actually get Lou Malnati's dry ice to you anywhere in the country. Call 1-800-LOU to go. On a side note, Rex, I used to wait tables at the Lou Malnati's on Wells Street in Chicago, and it was one of my jobs during, I think it was high school or college. I waited tables. Anyway, it was a cool job. That's a tidbit of information there. But when you go to LouMalnati's.com, their header image is a delicious piece of pizza coming out of the pan with the cheese and the sauce gooing. That is their moment. That is the moment that everyone waits an hour and a half for when they're in Chicago and they're salivating, that anticipation before you eat a piece of deep dish pizza. For your dental practice, your header image should be the smile reveal or the moment of changing a patient's life, that look and glisten in their eye and You could do premium stock photo, but I'd love it with a real patient. Show me the moment that you're selling to your new patients. We're going to change your smile, change your life. Or them eating into a ribeye steak, I don't care. Show me that. But also, look at their call to action button. Start my order now. What do people want? What did Luminati's want when people go to their website? They want them to order. They have a clear-cut call to action. You click on Start My Order Now. By the way, that right arrow, we have the same one on our website, Dentainment. So we copied, I didn't even know that. We copied Genius, I guess. And you go right to Order Now, and you could order locally or get it delivered. That is their clear-cut call to action. Most websites for dentistry, people are confused. They have no idea. So figure out, what do you want people to do when they land on your website? Is it call? Is it fill out the form? Is it text? Figure out what the call to action button you want and make sure the wording is strategic. Last thing on this, you see how it says Start My Order Now, Rex? You see, I don't know if you're on this. It says Start My Order Now. My Order. They obviously read the book. There's a great book out there called Story Brand. You want to phrase the copy based on the website visitor. This is amazing. I haven't even looked at Luminatis.com for a while. This is great. The call to action button is so good. It's big. The color is stand out. It pops. But it's my order. It's not start order. That's not pizza delivery. It's start my order. So the website visitor, oh, I'm going to start my order. The conversion rate optimization in most industries is 1 to 3%. I guarantee you Illuminati's is pushing 20%. I guarantee. So that means that if they get 100 visitors, 20% are ordering a pizza. I'm betting it's a minimal 20%. Right? Because of that.
I just converted. And I hit the remote start on my vehicle so I can get my butt down there.
Are you serious? That's awesome.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's awesome. I'm actually, before I get off this, before I bounce, I'm actually going to order, I got a custom one. Here you go. I'm going to see if they could dry ice me some of these thin crust spinaches in a deep dish.
Oh, people love seeing that too. I've used this a lot to send to friends.
Yeah, I'm going to send one to myself as well. So I'm not going to close that out. When we're off, I'm going to order. But let's just go to Gino's East. But isn't this fun, Rex, like looking at genius companies and getting marketing ideas?
Heck yeah.
It's my literally favorite thing to do. Now let's go to Gino's East. And it's good. It's not as good as Luminati's. So
you got me, man. You got me.
Well, it's just symbolic of the pizza too. I'm just joking. No, I love Gino. Like Gino's East would be like the best pizza in North America, or no, not North America. There's some great pizza in New York, everywhere else. But it'd be the best pizza like if there wasn't Lumel. You know what I mean? But you go to Gino's East and like they got rotating images and they got some great images, but their images of the pizza aren't great. They're small. They look like frozen pizzas. They don't even look that good, to be honest with you. And they got like they're trying to sell beer and wine to go on their fourth header image. It's stupid. Why would Gino's East try to get beer and wine to go? We don't need Gino's East to be selling me beer. They need to sell me deep dish pizza. Forget about the cookies. Forget about the Caesar. Show me your crust.
Yeah, I would say Luminati's definitely has them here on this page-to-page look for sure.
And then they got 2 call to action buttons under their header image. So they have order now and see the menu, both under the above the fold. So I got to scroll to see it. Listen, it's good. Anyone listening from Gino's East Marketing, you're great, but you're not as good as Illuminati's. And additionally, their Give the Gift the Pizza is an image of a gift card. Nothing with pizza on it. And then the stay-at-home order pizza. Listen. Every website, our website, Nike.com, this is the beauty about marketing and advertising. It's all about opinion and art and innovation and being better. So it all could be better. But when I see 4 to 5 rotating images on Gino's East that have nothing to do with deep dish crust, when you go to Lumel, they nailed it in one picture. It just, Gino's East conversion rate optimization is lower. This is serious business. When you're talking, how many locations and nationwide shipping, this is millions of dollars in lost ROI for Gino's East every year. Literally. Like, I'm not even joking. It's huge. Just based on, wrong. I hope they're marketing agencies in Chicago. I don't think it's up. And at the bottom of their website, it's got 2019. It should be 2020, 21. There's just little things. Now, they do have the cheese pizza at the bottom with the dripping. That's got to be above the fold header. I really think that. And we love Gino's Eats. It's delicious. I can't wait to eat it when I'm back home in Chi-Town next. But it could be better. Okay.
Yeah, as long as you have time to get your Lou Malnati's digested first, right?
Yeah, and this is what it's about. Some people might look at Gino's Eats and be like, I love it. It's great also. Like, and this is just my opinion. But I think, first of all, like cookies that look like they were bought at the local grocery store, like why would that take up real estate on Gino's Eats? Like it just, you know what I mean? It's like it's just lack of messaging. And there's too much copy. The order now button's under the line, like it's messed up, the design of it. It is what it is. I love it.
It is. Same thing on my computer, too.
I don't want to rip on Gino's anymore. I love it. Hopefully, everyone should try to emulate like at Gino's East. That they're hugely successful. But back to dentistry, and we'll wrap this up.
No problem.
This should be an ongoing discussion with the dental team, you, Rex, dealing with the acquisitions practices, looking at inspiration both in dentistry and outside of dentistry, to being able to exit. If you're thinking about selling down the road right now and you're going to call Rex at DDS Match and get optimal dollar for what you put into your practice, make sure these marketing initiatives are thought out, invested in, and looking great, because new patient flow will happen. You'll have way more success. And then when you're ready to exit, you'll have top valuation.
Yep. Couldn't say it better, man. Couldn't say it better.
Awesome. Rex, I know you're salivating and ready to chow. Anything you want to add before we wrap this?
Well, again, I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk here, Brad, and tell people a little bit about, some of our thoughts around the marketing piece and how important that is for both the buyer and the seller. And DDS Match, we've come a long way in the last 5 or 6 years now. We've got over just about 30 partners covering over 40 states. And we love having conversations about future transitions and help people prepare and really maximize the wealth. So, and it is all about marketing and keeping the digital tools flowing.
Beautiful. And someone, if they want to reach out to you, they just go to ddsmatch.com.
Yeah. I would definitely say, if you want to learn more, and it's all about, starting confidential conversations about your future plans, go visit our website at www.ddsmatch.com or call us at 1-855-546-0044, and they'll hook you up with your local DDS Match professional.
Fantastic. Rex, thank you very, very much for joining us. I so appreciate your time, wisdom, and inspiration you shared with our audience today. And thank you to Buzz listeners for tuning in. I know there's a lot of competition out there, like Netflix shows and all that good stuff to watch. So we so appreciate your time. Keep up the inspiring work. And if you focus on some of these topics we discussed today, you without question have optimal practice valuation when you're ready to exit. And you'll also be a wizard of Buzz. Take care.
If you're looking for more reach, engagement, and conversion with your dental practice marketing, download the Dental Year app today.